No One Left Behind is more than a standard we all live up to. It is a way of life. It is part of our mission. If you or someone you know finds themselves struggling with their mental health, please contact the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline by dialing 988 on your mobile phone or text 838-255 to speak or chat with a qualified counselor. All right. Is it May yet?
Well, let's see. Last night was Halloween, so no, we're stuck here in November, but May is coming soon. Welcome home, everybody, and thanks for tuning in to the Run for the Wall podcast. We are here now with episode 5.
That's right. So Run for the Wall, it's the oldest and largest cross-country motorcycle run in support of veterans, prisoners of war, and those servicemen and women who were killed in action. And we come together here on the podcast just to continue to raise awareness for our mission, as well as build a sense of community and educate on how, like, each of you and how we all can continue to support. Yeah, that's what we're doing here, especially if this is your first time tuning in. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. And we actually have a very special guest with us this episode. We have Eric Pitch Fort, and he is, who are you? You want to tell us?
I'm the Midway Route Coordinator for 2020.
Woohoo!
Right on. Welcome, Eric. We're so glad you're here.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we're going to kick things off with our sponsors. Boots, who do we have for sponsors this episode?
All right. So, we really, there's no way we could pull off a motorcycle ride of this magnitude without support from a lot of people. So I'm just going to touch on a couple of the very biggest sponsors who really help us out. First on the list is Fuller Law, Chad Fuller. He is awesome. He donates legal counsel to Run for the Wall, and I know he helps a lot of motorcycle riders all over the country. So if you or someone you know is in need of legal counsel, maybe you've been in a motorcycle accident or something like that, stuff happens. We ride bikes. Give Chad a call. He can be reached at 1-855-FULLER-LAW. That's FULLERLAW. Or check him out on the internet at fullerlawforriders.com. Also, again, I want to give a big shout out to the Greater Ontario Convention and Visitors Bureau. They roll out the red carpet for us every year for the beginning of Run for the Wall in Ontario, California. Big shout out to them for the incredible billboards and all the stuff they do for us. I also wanted to say thank you to California Harley-Davidson in Harbor City, California. Mark Ruffalo was an FNG last year on the run. He's the owner of the dealership.
Nice.
And he's just, I think he's just like all of us. He thought he was just going on a motorcycle ride and it infected his soul. So he is so on board with this. And also, I happen to know that Mark has a few 2023 Harley touring models available. And if you give California Harley-Davidson a call and mention Run for the Wall, they will give you that thing at dealer cost or very darn close to it. So thank you to California Harley-Davidson and Harbor City and Mark and all the staff members there. We really appreciate your support. And then also, on Run for the Wall, on each of the routes, we have a hydration trailer that goes ahead of the route and stops at all of the fuel stops, lunch stops, dinner stops. And that hydration trailer is full of water and sodas and electrolyte drinks and snacks, all kinds of great stuff. These are provided free of charge to the riders, but of course, these things aren't free. They are donated by our generous donors. And two of those donors, big donors who provide a lot of product for us, and support Run for the Wall are PepsiCo and Coca-Cola. So, next time you're out, grab a Pepsi, grab a Coke, and, think about how much they support our veterans, they support our communities, and support our Run for the Wall mission.
Thanks, Boots. All right, so Run for the Wall news and events. Top piece of news every episode until May. Registration is open. It's open. If you've been on the run before, you should be registered. If you're planning on going on the run, you should be registered. If you're not sure if you're going on the run, hey, just maybe go ahead and register anyway. That way that piece is done. And at worst, it's a nominal donation. Right?
That's right. And right now it's still early bird fees. So you can save a ton of money by registering now. Also, it really helps us in the planning aspects because, we got to know how much food at each stop and fuel and all that kind of stuff.
That's right. And the formation of the platoons. Register. Yes, that's the end game. And I want to point out that it's not by accident or incident that you have landed on this podcast. So if you heard the previous episode with Pretty Boy, then you heard how for 2 years in a row, he was like, that sounds like a terrible idea. Why would you do that? Immediately no. And then he went on his FNG gear and said within 10 minutes, he was hooked. So yes. So register. Moving on, countdown to the run. Midway route pitch. When does Midway take off?
We're a day earlier than the rest of the run. So we do an 11-day ride. The run itself is a 10-day mission. But we have one stop that's very important to us that requires us to leave a day early.
That's
so
right.
We leave on Tuesday.
On Tuesday, May 13th, Midway route will take off. Central and Southern routes will begin on Wednesday, May 14th. And Sandbox route will pick up Sunday, May 25th. Hotel and camping lists will be released on January 1st. And the route...
Not sooner.
Not sooner.
We get that question every year, not sooner.
They're like, well, what about Christmas? No, early Christmas gift. The hotel and camping list... Oh, that's what I just said. Okay, so January 1st. Route itinerary booklets will be released in March. Those are still being finalized. At this point, there are, more details that need to go into that. However, if you would like to access the previous years, rftw.us, they're there. Right, Boots?
Yeah, I just want to make a quick note on that because we get a lot of questions about these itinerary books. The routes in general, there's not a whole lot of changes, just some minor changes in the routes here and there. The big change is the landing point in DC. And there'll be more on that in coming episodes.
Okay. Let's see. So yeah, rftw.us, that's where you can get that information, as well as all information we discuss on the podcast. And prepaid fuel will also come out in March. So those are some of the news updates. Boots, what do you have for upcoming events?
Okay, so we've got local meetups. We're trying to inspire more. So if you want to host a local meetup, give me a shout out, let me know, and we'll figure out a way to get you set up. But we already have local meetups happening in Arizona, Colorado, Northern California, and then Washington, D.C. area. I was just informed of this actually this morning. It's not on the calendar yet on the Run for the Wall calendar, but it will be. And that is on the first Saturday of the month in Northern Virginia. And the contact for that is Ed Wehner at ed.wehner@rftw.us. His last name is Wehner. And also, we'll be making sure that the calendar on the Run for the Wall website is updated. Also, you can go to the forum at forum.rftw.us, and there's all kinds of information on meetups. And hey, look, if you want to start a meetup in your local area, do it. And you can send me an email at pod@rftw.us, and I'll help you get started with that. So yeah, we want to see more meetups and more community built around Run for the Wall.
Absolutely.
I also wanted to make a mention about route communications. So there's been a lot of chatter about this. We're moving away from CB to a better technology. It's called GMRS. It's more powerful, and there's a lot of benefits to it. I don't want to go through all of them, but you can go to the RFTW forum for news info and how to video tutorials on where to buy, what to buy, how to get it set up. Pretty Boy did some really good videos where he just shows you exactly how to pair it with your smartphone, pair it to your motorcycle system. If you have like the Harley Boom audio, there's a lot of tips in there. In fact, I had set mine up one way, and then by posting stuff on the forum, I realized, hey, there's a better way to set it up, because there's, as they say, there's more than one way to skin a cat. So go to the forum. There's a lot of information there. It's a great knowledge base.
Awesome. And the videos are via the forum, and they're posted
all
on the
forum,
and as well as the YouTube page and
YouTube. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. All right, so getting to the mission and the reason we exist and why we do what we do, we're going to move on to the why we ride. Boots, you have a bio for us?
I do. This is Why We Ride, and I'm going to share my screen right now. Give me a second here. All right. I'm going to do my best to get through this. This is Why We Ride. On June 4th, 1968, Lieutenant Eric Parker Bryce and Lieutenant Junior Grade William A. Simmons, assigned to Fighter Squadron 33, Carrier Air Wing 6, USS America Task Force 77, 7th Fleet, were on a strike mission over North Vietnam. Launching from the USS America at 12:30 local time, the aircraft, a McDonnell Douglas F-4J Phantom II, call sign Root Beer 204, was part of a 3-aircraft strike against a well-defended highway choke point southeast of San Dinh, North Vietnam. After conducting a successful bombing run, Lieutenant Bryce's aircraft was hit by enemy anti-aircraft fire at an altitude of approximately 5,000 feet. The pilot reported an immediate failure of the utility hydraulic system and continued his egress towards the Gulf of Tonkin. Lieutenant Bryce also reported sluggish flight controls and both engines' throttles frozen at full power. A wingman observed the wing station pylons eject from the airplane as they reached the beach, indicating serious electrical problems. Using only the rudders, Lieutenant Bryce flew the aircraft over the Gulf of Tonkin at an altitude of 10,000 feet and an airspeed of approximately 550 knots. 2 wingmen observing the incident in close proximity reported a fire on the leading edge of the starboard wing and told the crew to eject. Approximately 10 miles offshore, Lieutenant Bryce instructed Lieutenant Junior Grade Simmons to eject since he did not feel he could control the aircraft much longer. Both wingmen reported seeing the aft canopy leave the aircraft, followed by the Rio rocket seat. The aircraft then rolled to port and nosed down, entering the water at a steep dive. For reasons unknown, Lieutenant Bryce failed to eject from the aircraft. The F-4 sank immediately in 15 fathoms of water. At 13:08 local time, a search and rescue helicopter from the USS Jewett rescued Lieutenant Junior Grade Simmons. Search and rescue efforts continued with the USS Jewett and USS Dennis J. Buckley, with the latter reporting the recovery of aircraft debris, including a damaged life raft and a piece of a Mae West life jacket. Given the condition of the recovered articles, search and rescue concluded that there was little chance of pilot survival, and after covering a 30-square-mile area, the search was terminated. Following the incident, the U.S. Navy carried Lieutenant Bryce in the status of missing in action until 20 June 1968, when the status was changed from MIA to killed in action, body not recovered. For his heroic actions of piloting the damaged aircraft to sea, thereby saving the life of his Rio, Lieutenant Junior Grade Simmons, Lieutenant Bryce was posthumously awarded the U.S. Navy Distinguished Flying Cross. It is not the worst thing to die in war. It is not the worst thing to be missing in war. The worst thing is to be forgotten in war. Say their names, never forget. Lieutenant Eric Parker Bryce, to you, to your family, your friends, and your loved ones, on behalf of a grateful nation, we thank you for your service. Eric, anything else you'd like to add about your father?
Never give up hope. Never give up hope. Uh, my family is one of the ones whose loved one is still unaccounted for. We work closely with DPAA, Defense POW, MIA Accounting Agency. I meet with them a couple of times a year. And, when you see others' loved ones come home, it's a little bittersweet. You have mixed emotions. You're sorrowfully excited for them because some of the pain they feel. But in the same turn, you wonder, will that ever be me? So that's why I always feel like we always have to include never give up hope, because those that are still unaccounted for, there's a chance we can get them home and give them the burial and the closure for the family that they do deserve.
Yeah. So you do look like your dad. Here, let me show that picture. Let me show that picture again, everybody. Now that you know that it's Eric's dad. Let's see.
What's sad is my son is a spitting image of him. We've actually done some pictures.
Wow.
My youngest son with his hair parted side by side, and they look almost exactly alike.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Thank you
That's
so
great.
much for sharing that.
Thank you guys
with
for
us.
being a part of telling his story and continuing our mission. Run for the Wall is part of what we do.
Absolutely.
This is why we ride. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
All right. So we're going to move on to our newest segment of the podcast, which we have now titled Customs and Traditions. And this is just where we like to share how we do what we do and why we're doing it. Outside of the why we ride, there are certain things, like last episode, we shared the missing man formation. And we think it's really important in educating those who are coming out with us just on what to expect. Right?
Yep.
That's what I would say. Yeah, what to expect and why we're doing it. So this episode, we're going to talk about FNGs. Now,
what does FNG stand for?
So forget what you heard FNG used to stand for, okay? I know I have one in my mind. If you don't know or you didn't serve and may not know,
it's a family
Google
show.
it.
It's a family show,
exactly.
Right?
Google it. You may Google the original, I guess, connotation of it. But for us, I like to say either fun. Well, we used to call it like fun new guy or girl, but I decided today finding new generations, because they're new and it's like a new generation to the run, right? Like, what do you all think about that? We're finding new generations of people that we're bringing into the Run for the Wall family.
Yeah.
But simply put, it's a person who's joining us for the first time.
Yeah. And the way it was explained to me when I, first joined Run for the Wall is, and this is a Vietnam veteran who's explaining it. He said, back when they were in country, the new recruits who showed up in country, they called them FNGs. And all the people who were experienced wanted to stay away from the FNGs because they just didn't last long. And that's the sad truth. However, what they tried to do on Run for the Wall, and I think they succeeded, was turn FNG into a good thing. Mm-hmm. So when you're an FNG, you're only an FNG once. Even if you ride for one leg or one day, if you come back the next year, you're no longer an FNG. But keep your FNG button, because when you do start on Run for the Wall, you're going to get a little FNG button that you wear around on your jacket or your vest, or you put it in your lanyard, because you're going to get hugged everywhere you go. Mm-hmm. This was a problem for me because I wasn't a hugger kind of guy, but I am now. But yeah, and we get you to the front of the line. We give you all kinds of stuff because we're really glad you're here, and we don't want to get away from you. We want to bring you into the fold and help you through Run for the Wall. So it's kind of it's an honor. And then part of the tradition is, and this is why I tell you, if let's say you rode last year for one day, and you didn't go all the way to the wall, that's okay. If you come back this year, you're no longer an FNG, but bring that last year's button with you and keep it in your pocket.
Yeah.
And when you get to the wall in Washington, D.C., or the Middle East Conflicts Wall in Marseilles, Illinois, and you walk that wall, once you've walked that wall at the conclusion of Run for the Wall, have somebody, a good friend, or maybe your platoon leader, assistant platoon leader, somebody you know who's become special to you on Run for the Wall, flip your badge and turn it upside down. And that signifies that you have completed your mission and that you are no longer an FNG and you've done the mission. I wish I'd brought it. It's on my desk in my office. I'm in my garage here. This is my workshop. But I have a picture of me flipping Hitch's badge at the Vietnam Veterans Wall in Washington, D.C. Do you remember that, Hitch? You gave me that frame.
I do. I gave one to you and I gave one to Bruce. And so I was explaining this to a couple of friends of mine who are considering coming on the run. And I jokingly told them, it's like so you left out the part where you wear it right side up, like when you're an FNG, like as you're going through. So, you can actually read the FNG. And then it gets flipped from right side up to upside down as you, once you cross over at the end. And so I jokingly told them, like I'm explaining this to them, and I'm like, yeah, and when you all make it to the wall, I'm doing the flippage because I'm the one who introduced you. Like, clearly it's going to be me. But I said it jokingly, and I followed it up by letting them know that very well may not be the case. I started my FNG year in 2018, of course Crash is going to flip mine. Of course. Like, who else? Who else would? And, things happened, bonds were made. And I mean, he and I, we still got to share special moments, but I knew who I wanted and needed to usher me to the other side of the Run for the Wall family.
So Hitch, flippage, you're making up words now. That's a good one, though. I like it.
Listen, it's a word in Words with Friends. No. I get so irritated when they're like, this is a real word. I'm like, no, it's not. Yes, I'm doing the flippage.
All right, cool. Well, hey, to all the FNGs who've already registered, I just want to say welcome home. You're going to hear that a lot. And to anybody out there who's listening to the podcast, who's thinking about coming on Run for the Wall for the first time, we'd really like to welcome you. And we've got an FNG button just waiting for you.
And I can't wait to see you.
Really good this year. Yeah.
Can't wait to see you. Come find me in Ontario. Yep. Give me a hug, especially if you're on Midway or Southern. Like, hey, let's hang out in Ontario.
Yep.
But yeah, so speaking of Midway, we're going to get into our topic of the day. We are going to dig into all things that are great about Midway Route with 2025's Route Coordinator. So, Pitch, first question. And I know you mentioned that you've watched all of the episodes thus far. So I should throw a curveball question in here because you're probably like, okay, they'll probably ask me this. They'll probably ask me that. But how were you introduced to Run for the Wall?
Yeah. So real quick, as a Marine, you gave me my general orders earlier, right? So I knew what you were going to ask. If you deviate, we're going to have some problems. So no, all kidding aside, throw those curveballs. I love them. So Run for the Wall, it's actually kind of a funny story. I had a good friend of mine in the Army. He had done Run for the Wall out west and moved to Birmingham as a recruiter. And he was talking about this motorcycle ride. He really didn't go into detail. He was just talking about this ride. He said, hey, they're coming through Birmingham. We should all get together and go stand on one of the bridges as they come through town and, support them coming through. I was like, well, hey, that sounds like a great idea. Ride a motorcycle, carry a flag, be patriotic, support motorcycle riders. I'm in. So we go. Actually ended up on TV. Got an interview me, but my back was turned and got a picture of me on TV. But I'm standing there with, it's probably a dozen of us. And these first few motorcycles come, and they keep coming, and they keep coming, and they keep coming. And I'm thinking, this is really cool. And probably about 2/3 of the way, I'm thinking, why am I at here and not down there? This makes no sense. This was completely undersold. So that was kind of my first introduction into
What
Run for
year
the
was
Wall. That was in 2016.
Okay.
And so I decided, you know what? I'm going to dig a little deeper into this organization or this ride and see what it's about. And from then on out, it's history. I joined in later on, and you'll ask more questions about that.
I will.
But that was kind of my first introduction of, I have no clue why you didn't tell us we need to be a part of this.
Had
just
he
stand
ever
on
done
the
it?
bridge.
Had he
done it? He did it all. He did it all the way. That's the crazy thing. I'm like, you completely undersold this.
He did it all the way, but told you to stand on the bridge.
Yeah, he had ridden with Central Route, I think a couple of years before when he was stationed out west. Or he may have, if he didn't do all the way, he did probably 2/3 of it, right? But I told him, I said, I don't know how you're a good recruiter because you did a really crappy job selling this to me. It's a ride people come through, man. That's more than a ride. Come on. But yeah, so that was my first foray into Run for the Wall.
All right. So the next question is, why do you ride, or who do you ride for? But I feel like that was pretty well established.
Yeah.
I feel like it was pretty well established. Is there anything that you would like to add to that?
That was kind of a no-brainer for those that know me. I do ride every year in memory of my dad, but not just him. I've had other friends who are actually family to me, also Gold Star children, whose loved one was either killed or still considered unaccounted for from the Vietnam War. So I've ridden for their dads and their husbands. I've got a very good friend. She's like a second mom to me. His husband was killed in Vietnam early on, and so I've ridden for him. I ride for the families of those fallen, not just from the Vietnam War, but from all wars, because I understand what that's like. And so I think it's important to honor and remember the families, but also not forget those that served and the sacrifice they paid.
Yeah.
So really, it's I don't want to sound cliche or anything, but I ride for a lot of people because I think it's important that each one of those names and each one of those stories continues to get told some way, somehow.
Right. So you said that you stood on the bridge in 2016, right?
Yes.
When was your F&G year? Was it 2017?
So my F&G year was 2017 with Southern Route.
Okay. Because I was going to ask, like,
good. Yeah.
What other routes have you done?
Yeah, so we did Southern Route. We had to start kind of late in the run. Several of us that went, our oldest children were graduating from high school. So had to hit that monumental milestone, right? Had to be a graduation, all the events. So we got up early the next day and rode up from Birmingham to Whitfield, Virginia. And met Southern there. Much like Kirk said in his, why, we rode literally in probably about 8 hours of driving rain. And about 6 hours in, I started saying the same thing. Why in the world am I doing this? This is ridiculous. This is crazy. Once you get into Whitfield, and if you've ever done that stop, wow, what a community. The patriotism, the support. I mean, that's truly a number of huge stops. But I think that's one of the bigger ones that I've seen with Southern Route that really is just a very moving inspiration. That morning, I realized why I was doing what I was doing when I saw those people come out to see us off and hug us and welcome us and thank us for doing what we were doing. And then I kind of realized this is sort of cool. I like this. I still haven't figured it out yet. But I was like, okay, I got past the rain. Now I'm ready for some rain. This is going to be a good day.
So what positions have you held on which routes?
So I've only done Southern once. in 18, I tried Midway. I've been on Midway ever since. And so
Wow.
far, I've been part of the outreach team. Uh, Last year, I was the assistant route coordinator, and then this year, I was the route coordinator. So outreach a couple of years, and then moving on and more into leadership.
So for some of the people who don't know, can you tell us a little bit about what outreach does? Because it's a really important part of Run for the Wall.
Yeah, to me, I'm probably a little biased because of the mission that they have within the Run for Wall mission. But our outreach team are people that go out and meet with Gold Star families, uh, meet with families of the missing and unaccounted for, those that were still considered POW. Uh, they are kind of what I like to term the heart of the mission because they have the ability to spend a lot of time one-on-one with families and hear their stories, listen to what uh, their loved one did, and really show that Run for the Wall, it's not just about riding motorcycles. It's about listening and learning and taking those stories and continuing on. A lot of the outreach members are those who have family members that have served, uh, those who have lost a family member. I know outreach has one whose brother is still missing and unaccounted for on Midway. Uh, and so it brings another level. Those aren't requirements. You don't have that to be a part of outreach. But I think that's what makes every route's outreach team so special is because they do have those people on there. And when we say we understand or we have compassion for what you're going through, we can truly say that because several of our team members have those similar stories. And just to see the reactions the families get when outreach, just ask questions and then listen. Don't talk. We just listen, and give them a chance to tell the story. It's a very powerful and I'll tell you, I don't think I've left many get-togethers where tears have not been shed by everybody there, just because it's such an emotional and such a important and powerful part of what we do with Run for the Wall.
Wow, that's incredible. Thanks for sharing that.
Pitch, why are you discriminating against Central Route? You did the other routes.
Hey, I'm not done doing Run for the Wall.
Curveball question number one.
I wasn't doing Central. I never said. I'm working my way through, Hitch. I'm working my way through.
All right, we're going to hold you to that. Hey, and you know what? I want to, at the risk of being like super elementary, you mentioned Gold Star children, Gold Star families. Mm-hmm. There's also referred to as being a Blue Star family. Mm-hmm. Pitch, can you tell us, yes, just for some people who may not have grown up with a military family or don't know, what does Gold Star or Blue Star mean?
Yeah, so Blue Star is typically a family member who has a loved one that's deployed. So you'll see a flag. It's a rectangular flag. It's got a red border, and they'll have a blue star. And some will have more stars than others. So it's typically each star represents a service member who is currently deployed overseas. That was the way the flag originally started. In World War II, when one of those service members was tragically killed, they would place a gold star over that. So if you look closely at a Gold Star service flag, you still see the blue edging around around the Gold Star. Gold Star family members are those whose loved one who was killed in a conflict, so typically in a wartime accident or injury. There have been some situations where, due to terrorist attack, they've recognized the families as Gold Star. For example, the 5 recruiters that were killed in Chattanooga, I believe it was 2012 or 13. Mm-hmm. They were designated because it was considered a terrorist attack on them. So it's normally seen as those who have been killed in a hostile environment under enemy fire.
Right. Thank you. Appreciate that. So next question. How do you prepare yourself for Run for the Wall physically and emotionally?
Well, physically, this year is a little bit different than in the past. I try to stay fit. I'm not a gym rat, but I definitely try to stay active and busy and do things. This year's a little bit different. I'm preparing for a memorial walk. Well, I'll actually conduct 2 weeks before uh, we kick off Run for the Wall. So I'm doing a lot of walking. So staying cardio and fit with that. Uh, and riding my motorcycle as much as I can, uh, just to keep my reaction time, where it needs to be, and feeling comfortable and at a level that I need to be to ride the type of mileage that we do each year on Run for the Wall. Um, Ted, I'd love to tell you there's a great way to plan emotionally, but I don't know that there is. It's for me, it's an exciting time because, as it is for many of our riders, I think, uh, it's a family reunion. First and foremost, we get to see people, regardless of the route. We get to see our friends and family, uh, who we've built these relationships with that maybe we talk to throughout the year, but we only get to see on Run for the Wall. So it's a really big emotional high. It's an excitement. It's a great time. Um, but it's an emotional ride, and each leg of the ride is a little bit different for each rider. Um, for me, I know it starts with that kind of high, that excitement of I'm on Run for the Wall, I'm seeing everybody, and I'm getting to participate, and then the emotions get stronger and stronger and stronger. For me personally, the further east we get, for a couple of reasons. Number one, obviously, with my dad's name being on the wall, that's an emotional place for me. It's an important place for me. Um, but also, I know it's this year's mission. Our mission never ends, but this year's mission is coming to a close, and so I know that there'll be some goodbyes or see you soon's. At the end of those 2 weeks, but it's the best way I described it to someone. Matter of fact, over this weekend, they asked me, how do you do so much? And I told them, to me, it's not a ride. It's become a journey. And I think everybody's participation in it's a little bit different, but it starts out as a ride, and you don't really know what to expect as an FNG. You think you do, but you get on there, and regardless of your experience and regardless of your history as a motorcycle rider, there's just emotions that come up, and I tell people, if you don't get emotional seeing 20 people lined up on an overpass with a fire truck and a flag, you ain't got a heart.
That's for sure.
You ain't my people. But I try to stay positive, and not let the emotions take too much. But we all know there's some point in time we lower that visor, and keep the tears to ourselves, because it's good emotions. I don't want people to think this is bad. It's good emotions. But the beauty is you forge such a friendship with people on these rides that they can see when something's not right, and they know whether to give you space, or they know whether to say, "Hey, Chaplain, can you just come throw your arm around this guy for a minute, or this gal for a minute? I think they need you." And just to have those resources, to me, has been a huge, huge part of my healing journey, with the loss of my dad. That I would put Run for the Wall up there as a very therapeutic outlet for me, from a healing journey and a healing perspective.
All right. So I would say, a slightly lighter note, drawing from your experiences on the 2 routes that you've been on. Wait, have you done Sandbox?
No, I have not done Sandbox.
Okay,
I still work for a living. I can't take that much time off.
Okay.
I wish I could, but I'm going to try to squeeze it in one of these days.
I guess I'll let up on you about not doing Central Route then.
I appreciate that.
Drawing from your experiences across Southern and Midway and the various positions that you've held, what would you say your favorite stop or experience is on the run? And I mean, you could choose one from each, or it's not.
I'm gonna plead the on this one.
Is that the new thing? We're gonna plead the gunny?
That's a new saying, Hitch. We're gonna plead the gunny. That's it. No, it's I think Ted mentioned it maybe in the teaser video, or maybe in the first one. Uh, there's so many stops. I mean, it's hard to say that even if I had a favorite, it would be hard to say I do because we do so many amazing stops. I mean, the schools that we stop at, these kids put all this time and energy into programs for us and the patriotism and the songs they sing and they want to come out and get pictures with us on the motorcycles or, um, the churches we go to and we get all that good church mama food. Um, and the different veteran organizations that support us and the dealerships and all that. It's really hard to say there's a favorite. I do like the fact you've put most memorable in though, because
that was Pretty Boy. That's the Pretty Boy question. Yeah.
There you go. So Gunny, luckily Gunny didn't steal my thunder too bad in his podcast, but I would have to tell you the when we were on Seymour Johnson in 2019 and got to take almost 300 motorcycles down an active runway. Yep. And have 4 F-15s come flying over us at 500 feet, maybe 1,000 feet tops, as we're rolling down an active runway, has got to be probably the coolest thing I think I've ever done on a motorcycle.
That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah, that was really cool. We weren't expecting that. Typically, we stage at a family area where they have events and stuff for the base wide families. But when we turned and went down the runway, I was like, they must be taking us a different way. And they were. They were right down the runway. So that was probably been the most memorable for me as far as that. Southern, there's several. I would have to say the D-Day Memorial for me. I'm kind of a history buff. So that memorial for me was so powerful. The definition that the artist did in all the sculptures was just, it's an amazing memorial. If you've never been, try to put it on your list of places to go and visit, because it's one that it's so impactful and so well done. You literally feel like you're a part of that memorial.
Yeah. Okay, so you talked about the good church mama food.
Oh yeah.
And I know people have shared with us about the food on Southern, but I don't think anyone's talked about like the meals on Midway.
So again, I'm gonna plead the gunny.
Oh, here we go again.
I'm gonna tell you, the best meal is the meal in front of me. No, it's you almost spit your coffee out on that, didn't you?
Tea. It's tea.
No, it's tea. All right.
I did.
So, I mean, again, Ted said it early on. We can't do what we do without the support of so many people. The food. Look, I always think I'm going to lose weight when I do Run for the Wall. We spend so much time on a motorcycle. It's hot. It gets kind of humid. It's up and down. Everywhere we stop won't let you just get a little bit to eat.
No.
They want to give you that massive portion, and thank God for 5-hour energies after lunches, because I'd have to tap out and nap for a little bit and then catch back up. But we've got great food. I would tell you, there's been a little bit of a joke, as you guys know. When Helene came through, Asheville, North Carolina is a huge stop for Midway. They've been great. They've become families to us, and so the devastation has had a lot of impact on us, not even in remote comparison to those that are there. But we've had to figure out a way to divert Asheville. And the joke was, we've got to get Erica's homemade ice cream. So we do a stop where there's some amazing homemade ice cream in Cyber City, some peach cobbler. So we have to do that. There's steaks, there's potato bar, we even get spaghetti. So not only do you have steak, potato, homemade peach cobbler, homemade ice cream for lunch, that night we go to Chief Chaplain's church, Chief, And we get some of the best spaghetti you will ever have served out of coolers. They make so much, they
Wow.
put it in coolers and serve it to us. And I would say it's hands down as good or better than most any Italian restaurant I've ever been to.
Wow.
It's just I mean, those are some of my, because I'm Southern. Now, I will tell you, anything east of the Mississippi, I really do like because we have sweet tea. So I'm
Fair enough.
really good with that part. I feel like I'm getting back home, but no, it's all the meals are just so well done, and the people are so supportive of what we do. And I mean, when I tell you I'm serious, any meal in front of me is my favorite meal. It's the God's honest truth.
All right.
They are
A
just so good.
curveball question number 2, and then I'll leave you alone and let
No, you
Boots
won't.
ask
No,
the
you
rest of the questions.
No.
Now, you mentioned you always think that you'll lose weight on the run. But I want to know, like, does your weight stay the same or does it go up? Or do you even bother getting on the scale when you return home? You plead the gunny?
a fair question, because you know a man's not allowed to ask a woman that. So, come on.
It's modern
No,
times.
I would venture to say I stay about the same, but tend to lean towards the heavier side when I come home. I don't lose weight, that's for sure. That's for sure.
All right. I'm done. I'm gonna leave you alone.
Okay. How about your road name, Pitch? How'd you get it?
That's a good question. So, as you guys know, you can't give yourself a road name.
No, you can't.
If you do, you're going to get a worse road name once we figure it out. But for a long time, I had some good friends of mine with the American Legion Riders here in Birmingham, and I didn't have a road name. They were trying to come up with one, and nothing really stuck. They were trying a few things, and it just nothing was really nameplate worthy, right? So we were at an event, and it was a local event here in Birmingham, and it was working with different organizations through the VA that were mental health awareness and programs that were out there to help those PTS, moral injury, that kind of thing. So we were there as a part of the American Legion, and some people came up, and I was talking about not only the things that the American Legion does, but other organizations that I've been involved with, and some of the programs and outreaches that they do. And when we leave for lunch, one of the guys was like, "Man, Eric, you gotta, like, you talk about everything. You got a line, it seems like, no matter what you say. It's like everything's a sales pitch to you." And my good friend Fuzzy, who's been on Run for the Wall a couple times with us, Fuzzy looked at me and he goes, "That's it. It's pitch."
That's
and pitch
perfect.
has stuck ever since. So
I love
being
it.
a salesman of 20 years, it kind of comes naturally. But yeah, pitch has become my road name that stuck.
Oh, I like that. I like it.
That's great. We got Pitch and Hitch.
Yeah, pitch and hitch. Ha
All right, cool. Now, tell us about what you ride.
So I've got a 2015 Street Glide, Amber Whiskey. Was into sport bikes for a while. Finally made the transition to a cruiser. Kept a sport bike for a little while, but ended up selling it. So that's the only horse in the stable right now. And it's not too customized, but it's been creature comfortized for longer rides and for what we do with Run for the Wall and what I like to do photography on the side as well. So being able to throw a camera bag and a tour pack and cruise around the countryside and take pictures, kind of customized it for those types of rides and events.
Nice. I'm kind of partial to the amber whiskey color too, because my bike sitting right there is amber whiskey and black.
When I went in, of course, I wanted black. That's kind of the favorite color of Harley, right? And,
yep.
I knew the sales lady, and she said, "Hey, I just want to show you this one." And that's too Tennessee orange for me. I'm a Bama guy. I can't do that. And the more I looked at it, the more I thought that's actually a really cool color.
It is.
And it was one of the 3 custom colors for 15. And I thought, well, that's it. I'm getting it. And so everybody that sees it when they first see me on it, they're like, "I just don't seem like an orange guy." But
So all three of us have orange bikes. Because Hitch, your bike's almost amber whiskey. What is the victory color called?
Orange? No, I don't know. I actually don't know, and I didn't buy it new. I don't know. I'd have to Google it. But yeah, I have a victory hammer.
There's a specific name for that color.
Yeah,
I'll Google it. Yeah, I will look it up.
Okay, you look that up. I'm going to go to the next question.
But I think we should discuss at some point on the podcast, like how to find your bike in a sea of bikes. Like you said, like how you talked about all the black. Now, where did I park? No.
Yeah, because I don't know anybody you can shoot with a fob and make the horn honk, so you can figure out whether there's like a vehicle. So
yeah, that's the running joke on Run for the Wall is, hey, I'm looking for a guy. He's wearing a ball cap, he's got a gray beard, and he's riding a black Harley with some chrome.
Is it Nuclear Sunset? Nuclear Sunset?
Nuclear Sunset. I knew it had a cool name. All right, so Pitch. How about advice for FNGs?
You know, I thought about this one because everybody's given out some great advice, right? You know, Bob talked about don't overpack. We've had hydration. You know, you've had some great tech tips with Ted. For me, I think it's familiarization.
Okay.
Not just with your bike, but with your gear and with what you'll be doing. You know, I'll give you an example. I like 5-hour energies, but I would not recommend getting on Run for the Wall to experiment and use a 5-hour energy. It may not be something that your body does not like. It may not be used to that type of caffeine that quickly. Same with the electrolyte drinks. You know, I think it was the first or second episode, Ted, you were talking about, you know, a lot of electrolytes and, you know, keeping that fluid balance and avoid the sodas as much as you can. Same thing though, if you've not drank Powerades or Gatorades or taken Liquid IV or any of the electrolyte hydration, don't experiment. Try now, start now, see what works. You know, I'm doing a walk, you know, as I mentioned before, on April 30th. It's the 50th anniversary of the Fall of Saigon. And it's going to take me about 8 or 9 hours to complete it. So right now I'm training every time as if I do that. I'm figuring out what my water breaks are like, my bio breaks, when I need to replenish with protein gels, when I need to eat, how much I need to eat based on caloric expenditure, things like that. Obviously, you don't have to take it to that level with Run for the Wall, but the point is I'm trying to figure out what works and what doesn't work before I go do it that day.
You know, that is so important because, like, especially because I'm big on hydration, but a lot of these hydration powders that you use or the tablets like the Noom or the Liquid IV, one of the key ingredients there is magnesium. And not to be too maudlin here, but you can't overdose on magnesium. But if you have a lot of magnesium, it will find its way out. And you'll be not running for the wall, you'll be running for the bathroom. And you don't want to have that happen when you're in the middle of a leg there. So the key, like Eric said, like Pitch said, is to don't experiment on your first day on Run for the Wall with electrolyte drinks. Try them out beforehand. Electrolytes are a good thing to have as just a daily routine, and your body will get used to the magnesium so that you won't have any kind of side effects going on. And then when you do get into a situation where you're exercising, maybe you're doing a bicycle ride or a 5K or 10K or just a community walk, anything like that, you won't have any of those kind of side effects from the magnesium rich electrolytes. And, you know, magnesium's good. Sometimes, you know, for a headache, for just about any pain you have, using magnesium is a great homeopathic remedy. So
yeah, for sure. And,
how about,
and I think also with your gear, you know, and this is something that I go back to a few years ago. I had bought some gloves for riding when it gets cooler. Now, obviously, you know, in Alabama, it's not super cold temperatures, but you know, when you're running 75 down the interstate and it's 40 degrees out, it's pretty stinking cold on your fingers. And I had bought some new gloves. they were not good gloves for motorcycle riding. Had I been on a snowmobile or something where I didn't have finer controls that I needed to be able to turn on or off or use, then they would be okay. But for motorcycle riding, they just did not work well. And sadly, I had to take them off and freeze my fingers off because I could not control my handlebars the way I needed to from the clutch, the brake, and all the other controls. So I would tell you, if you get gear, go ahead and get it early and try it out. I mean, it can be anything from new rain pants. They've got new, there's more ventilation flaps on it. So you don't want to be fumbling trying to close them when it's raining or opening it up after we go through a rain that's warming back up. That's why I think familiarization is key, not just with what you put into your body, but what you put on your body and what's around you to make sure that you're just not experimenting or trying to acclimate to it as you get on the ride. Go ahead and do that ahead of time. Practice.
Totally. Great. I love that. That's going to play into my tech tip too. So we'll save that for later.
See, I knew we were on the same page there.
But I like those tips not only for FNGs, but for all riders.
Yeah.
But is
sure,
there any difference in what advice you would have for all riders?
I don't think so. I mean, it's FNGs. It's a little new because you don't know what to expect, and maybe you've ridden in a big group, but you haven't ridden in the size of the group or the way that we ride. In platoons where we take a big envelope and we narrow it down to a smaller group. But as far as those types of tips, I mean, I would say for any rider, regardless of how long, you've been on Run for the Wall, I'd say even, for those that have been going on as long as Gunny has, it's important to be familiar with what your body needs and what you're putting on your motorcycle or yourself to create a safe ride for you and those around you.
Right on. All right. Okay, we're down to the last question here, and I think we already know the answer. But I'm going to throw another curveball at you. So the question is, what are your plans for the upcoming run? We know you're going to be the route coordinator for Midway, but are you going to ride from Alabama out to California? Or are you going to ship your bike? What are your plans? Tell us.
Yeah, so this will be the third year that we've ridden from Alabama to Ontario. So we will.
You got a group?
About 4.
Yeah. Because I'm like, you said we a few times. Who's we?
Yeah. So the first year that I rode out to Ontario and went all the way, 2022. It was 2 of us, myself and Sergeant Buzz. We were from Birmingham. We did it in 3 days. I will not do that again. I am too old to be doing, 800 mile days. So I'm going to admit it. 56, I'm too old to be doing it. Last year, it was myself and Rocket Man. He is our missing man coordinator on Midway. And this year, one of the organizations I ride with, we've really been doing a lot to promote Run for the Wall. So we're probably going to have 2 or 3 FNGs that are going to be riding out with us. And then we'll have 3 or 4 others that are Run for the Wall participants. And we'll pick up a couple along the way in Oklahoma in Oklahoma. They're all gonna come in there. So we'll probably roll into Ontario with about a dozen, 14 folks maybe.
Great.
And, have a good time for a couple days with everybody, and then kickstands up and head east.
That sounds great. Right on.
All right. Before we wrap that up, is there anything else that you would like to share about Midway? Or what's the special stop that you all have that makes you all leave a day early?
I'm glad you asked. So we actually, it's really two stops, and this will sort of give everybody a better understanding of why Midway leaves a day sooner, and we're appreciative of those that allow us to do so and support us in the effort. So one of the reasons that we have to leave on Tuesday as opposed to Wednesday with the rest of the family is we do a stop in Fort Sill at Fort Sill Army Base. And
In
the only day that
Oklahoma.
we're able to do it is that Friday because of post exercises and graduations on Saturday. And it's community wide, it's not just on the base. But we are very honored to have chiefs from several of the tribes local to the area come out and they sing songs in native languages. We get to meet a number of people from the tribal community. Oftentimes the princesses are there, so we're very honored to have them. And as we depart Fort Sill, they always do a smoke blessing for us. So it's really neat to see that. And then each year they've honored Run for the Wall by taking the route coordinator to Chief's Knoll, which is an Indian burial ground there on Fort Sill, and see part of a blessing ceremony that they do there. So it's a very special stop for us because of what the Native American community has done to embrace us. And of course, you know, we have to reciprocate by stopping and seeing them because it's such an important part of our, not only our history as a nation, but our history as military. So many of our brothers and sisters in arms are from the Native American community. So it's so good to be able to see them and spend time with them.
Yeah.
The other big one is Cookeville, Tennessee. So Cookeville is a very special home for us. We actually stayed 2 days there. So we arrive on Sunday. We stay overnight, and then Monday we do 3 breakouts where the riders get to go to 3 different areas around the community. So we visit veterans homes, veterans museums, veterans cemetery, schools, and just get to spend a lot of time with the community. Cookeville really rolls out the red carpet. We truly get a VIP parade each and every year when we roll down the main street into Cookeville, where we go to downtown and have dinner. How they roll out the red carpet, you feel like a president, coming in when you get there. Every route has that, and Cookeville is a very special one for us. They've really become a big family to Run for the Wall in Midway over the years.
That really sounds like a beautiful experience.
Well, you should come to Midway sometime, Hitch, and try it out. I mean, you're telling me I got to go to Central. I'll tell you what, the year I go to Central, you come down to Midway. We'll flip-flop. How about that? That way, Hitch and Pitch change spots. Careful what you wish for. Remember, you're talking to a salesman. Pitch.
Moving right along. No, we stop. No, yeah, I would love to. I don't think we should switch though. We should do them together.
Yeah, we got to coordinate all
like
this.
That way,
Yeah.
we can walk around. We can get like matching shirts, Hitch and Pitch. Like,
oh my
Pitch and
gosh.
Hitch, whichever
I like it. I like it.
I think it would be great.
I like it.
Can you?
So I'll come up to
Picture
Central. I'll extend the olive branch, Hitch. I'll come to Central first. And then the next year, you'll have to come down to Midway. How about that?
Okay. And I mean, and you've listened to the episodes. You know, Boots and I, our plans are to hit the other routes.
We're doing all the routes.
So
yeah, we are.
Yeah. So I'm
and
down
I think
for
you
it.
have to. I mean, each route, look, we all have the same mission. We're all focused on the same thing. We all support one another. We give each other a little bit of a hard time about Midway versus Central versus Southern. But at the end of the day, we're all here for one reason, and that's support the mission of
that
Run
is
for the Wall.
it. It is one mission, 4 routes.
Yep.
Absolutely. Yeah. But I think each one of them has their own little uniqueness that makes them special in their own way.
Right.
But we're all here together, like Ted said, 4 routes, one mission. And that's what makes this such a great event and journey to be a part of each and every year.
True that. And so in talking about this journey, there are some things that we should know, some technical things we should know. So that is going to bring us to Tech Tips with Ted. What do we have for this episode?
Okay. This one's a good one. And I just want to give a shout out to where the inspiration for this came from. This came from my very good friend, Kathy Novak, who is a longtime friend of mine, a Harley rider, and I'm hoping she'll join us on Run for the Wall one of these coming years. And so I'm going to hold this up. Hitch, you know what that is?
What is with the curveball questions to me?
Well,
the curveballs are
come
supposed to be
on.
for pitch. Did you mean pitch or hitch?
No, hitch. Hitch.
All right.
Come on, hitch.
It's a clutch.
It's a clutch lever. That's right.
Clutch lever.
This is a clutch lever. This is actually my spare clutch lever that I carry in my saddlebag of my Harley. This is for a Harley Davidson. This is for one with a hydraulic clutch. And I carry that because that's what my Harley has. The reason I carry a clutch lever, and I carry clutch levers for all my bikes. Most of my bikes are race bikes. They're not driven on the street, but I'm just going to talk about street. Let's not talk about race stuff. But on the street, most tip-offs happen in parking lots. If you tip, and it happens to all of us, if you tip a bike over in a parking lot on the left side and you break that clutch lever off, and normally Harley clutch levers break up here, not down here. You break that clutch lever off, you are done. You are getting your bike towed home. Okay? If you carry a spare clutch lever in your saddlebag, and you know what that is, Hitch?
What, really? Pliers, little tiny pliers, little flippy pliers. They're pliers.
Yeah, these are circlip pliers. So if you just carry a simple clutch lever and the tools to change it in your saddlebag, you're on your way again. If you tip over on the right side and break a front brake lever, you can get home with a back brake, no problem. You break a clutch lever, you're done. So the cool thing is, and just like Pitch said earlier in the show, is practice changing your clutch lever. Don't buy a clutch lever, throw it in your bag, and then get to the point where you have to change one and you don't even have the proper tools to do it. Because on a Harley, it's got this little clip down here, and you got to put the little tiny little heads in there, and then you got to use that circlip. I actually carry extra circlips too, because believe me, this clutch has been used on this lever has been used on several people's motorcycles. On hog chapter rides, you got to tip over in a parking lot. Bam, there goes the clutch lever. I pull this out of my bag, put it in, and we're on our way again. It's that simple. You're not calling a tow truck. You're not getting a ride home on the back of somebody else's bike and then getting your truck and go picking up your bike. It's an easy thing to do. You can pick these up on eBay really cheap. These special pliers that I got, these came off the Snap-on truck, but you don't have to do that. I just have a funny tool thing. You can get these on Amazon, or you can get maybe Harbor Freight. I don't know, but practice with it. Make sure you know how to do it. And the cool thing is, like I said, I've saved a couple of people's bacon just carrying this clutch lever. And if you have a clutch lever on your bike, whether you ride a BMW or a Goldwing or a Harley with a hydraulic clutch or a cable clutch, you can be the savior of the day there for someone. So that is.
Hey, Boots, they can also go by their local dealership too. A lot of times dealerships will keep the original parts whenever you upgrade and just throw them in a box. So your dealership may have some up in an attic laying around somewhere that you can get for no cost.
Absolutely. Yep.
That's
good point.
Cool too. All right. So that brings us to our listener letter. Now, we don't have one this episode.
Because no one's listening?
And that's not the case, because I can see the numbers. I see the numbers, and I know that you all are listening, especially via YouTube. So I just really want to encourage you all to write in. We love interacting with you all, not just with one another. So write in, tell us your stories, give us your tech tips, just share.
Yeah, or if you have a question.
Yeah, but since we don't have a letter, I was thinking that I could get you all to share maybe an experience or maybe another tip or something like that. So something that stands out to you on the run that you think people should know or be aware of, or...
Yeah, I got a good one.
What do you have, Boots?
So this has happened on the Run for the Wall. This has happened on hog chapter rides. This has happened on, Coast Riders. That's a motorcycle club I was in San Luis Obispo. This has happened on so many rides. You're riding down the road and all of a sudden you're ducking because something has flown off the bike in front of you. a helmet, a jacket, a vest, a sweatshirt, a water bottle, saddlebags. Yeah. So the thing is, tie your stuff down and double check it. Look at your buddy's bike. Make sure it's tied down.
Mm-hmm.
If you have saddlebags that screw in every once in a while, make sure those things are good and tight. Give it the little rock test, rock it back and forth and make sure that everything is secure, because not only do you risk losing a jacket, oh my gosh, on just on the Central Route alone, do you know how many jackets Tommy picked? Tommy 2 Chains. Hey Tommy, I'm wearing a Dixon. Tommy and I have a Dixon shirt thing. But Tommy 2 Chains, he's the last man vehicle, and he is picking up jackets and vests and sweatshirts the whole way across the United States. Make sure your stuff is tied down. And I don't want to call anybody out, but I've even seen stuff come off of Road Guards bikes and Todd Taylor. Make sure your stuff is tied down, right? That's the extra tech tips from Ted here.
And I will say that anytime I got off my bike, when I would get back on, I would do a once around. You know what I mean? You don't know what you may have encountered, or just getting on and off your bike, you may accidentally kick your gear and then that, loosens it or knocks it off a little bit. But I always did a quick walk around to just ensure everything is nice and secure and that I'm ready for the next leg.
Yeah, we got enough to deal with just staying in formation rather than trying to dodge jackets, vests, water bottles, whatever else gear, crazy stuff comes off a bike.
Yeah. Well, that will do it for this episode. What?
Yep.
Oh, I thought you had something else to say. He's like,
no.
Yeah. I'm like, that'll do it for this episode. Special thank you to 2025's Route Coordinator for Midway, Eric Pitchford. And for more information, Eric, be sure to visit us at on the Run for the Wall website at rftw.us. And as I said before, be social with us. Share your questions, your experiences. Let us know what topics. We actually did have someone share, write to us. They would like to hear from ambassadors, actually. So our ambassadors out there, if you are listening, there's at least one request of people who would like to hear from you. And if you're open and willing, send us a message at pod@rftw.us and let us know, like, hey, I'm an ambassador and I'd love to come on and share experiences.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Until next time, how far are we going?
All the way.
That's right. See y'all next time.